Hi, friends. So, there's been something going on for quite a long time in the collective, and it's escalating more and more and more these days. So, that thing is where the media controls our consciousness. So, it controls the collective conversations, and for those of us that are plugged into it, it also controls our own consciousness, our own thought process, our own mental space, and what we're focusing on. So obviously, this has been going on for a long time in politics, and in this past year, it's escalated exponentially with the COVID crisis and the lockdowns, and now the whole vaccine debate and conversation that's going on. So, the most important thing to know about this is that when you tune into the media, your consciousness is being not only affected but co opted. So you're actually allowing the mainstream media or your social media connections to choose what you're thinking about. And there's really, on a small scale, there's nothing wrong with being tuned in with what the collective is talking about, and it's important to some degree for most of us. And but most of us have taken it too far, and we've taken it even more too far this year because we've been more isolated, we've been spending more time in front of the screen, most of us, and more time consuming media that's coming from the mainstream media, even if we're getting it from our friends, even if we're getting it from less mainstream sources. It's coming from the top down, and often it's like the difference between paid advertisements and things you're reading from your friends and family is getting blurrier and blurrier. So it's harder and harder to know when you're reading genuine sentiments or genuine science and when you are reading something that is there to co-opt your consciousness and eventually make a profit off of you. So what can we do about this? There are a lot of things we can do. And I want to say that this is a long-term endeavor to free your consciousness and become sovereign so that you have your life back. So if we're allowing the media to control our mind, to control our thought processes, and even to control our relationships, what we're talking to our friends about, what we're debating about, what we're even arguing about on the internet and off, we are literally giving our lives away. We're giving up our time, we're giving up our attention, we're giving ourselves away. And I want to give an example to illustrate what I'm talking about from a dream I had last week. So I had a dream where there was a list of things that I needed to discuss with someone, things that were important for us to discuss around my housing situation. And I went out into the hallway to discuss these with her, and she gave me a very, very large coffee pot. So I took it. I don't drink coffee daily, I don't make coffee, and I had no need for a coffee pot, let alone this large coffee pot. And what that dream told me as I thought about it more was that I was actually ignoring the list of things that were important to me and allowing something that actually wasn't relevant to me, a coffee pot which I didn't need, a large coffee pot which I didn't need, to enter into my consciousness and distract me from the things that were on that list that were important and pressing matters. So, how can we change this? So what I want to say also is that I feel like I personally have been somewhat of a societal dropout for most of my adult life, maybe even earlier than adulthood. And there's definitely, what we could call privilege that comes along with being able to both drop out of society in some ways and still experience the benefits of it in other ways. And there's also privilege in being able to completely participate in society that not all of us even could do if we wanted to. But finding the part of you that can drop out of society, I want to advocate for that because it is helping me a lot right now. And I've been thinking, I've had the thought many times this week, especially in the past couple of days, of like, wow, I am grateful that I have been dropping out of society for so long, because now as things get more and more controlled, and in order to participate in mainstream society, our actions and our bodies are less and less sovereign to ourselves. Being equipped in our own consciousness, in my own mind, in my own spirit, to not be reliant on those things is a huge amount of freedom. And it's the kind of freedom that comes from your own creative spirit, your own voice, your own self awareness. So it's not something that you exactly earn by going to a job for years. Like, that gives people a certain type of freedom, also a different type. But in the times we're in right now, the type of freedom we need most is the one where we can think for ourselves, prioritize our own time and our own thoughts, and find ways to express what matters the most to us in spaces where we can have an impact. So it's going to be extremely more and more necessary, not just important, but crucial and life-saving. I mean that when I say life-saving, because there is a sense of life and death about some of the things being discussed right now. And we absolutely must be in tune with ourselves. We must take time every single day to either meditate, write, walk alone and think, pray, do a creative project. This is like not something that can be put to the side, or maybe I'll do it later, or maybe if I have time, well, I'm going to spend hours scrolling on social media instead. No, that's the kind of thing that is, if it doesn't kill you literally, it will kill your soul. And that's another thing that's going on right now, is that we're having so many conversations in the collective about what can or cannot kill people, literally their bodies, while our bodies are alive. Yet where are we? Are we all just sitting at home alone in front of our screens all day? Like, what kind of aliveness is that? And what kind of aliveness are we actually fighting for when we're fighting for whatever issues are up that are life and death in theory or in reality? So the final message for today is, you absolutely must find your actual life force and what is actually important to you, not to everyone else right now. Because what's going to be important to everyone right now is going to change every single day. And yes, there are themes. We have months and months where people are going to be talking about the vaccine, maybe years. We might have years of people talking about COVID. And you might be reading the same types of conversations and debates and arguments over and over and over again. And what you need to do as a sovereign, alive, and awake person is to separate yourself from that for some time each day and ask yourself, what are your priorities and where can you make an impact? It's probably not going to be with arguing with people on social media who've already made up their minds, and it's probably not going to be preaching to the choir and talking to people who have also already made up their minds, about how wrong the other side is. Of course, we might need some of that, and it's great to support people in thinking for themselves and making their best decisions. And we also need to find, well, what other topics could we be talking about or thinking about right now? Because there are a lot of different ways people can die. There are a lot of different things that can harm people, and a lot of them are still happening. And there are also a lot of things that can actually bring people joy and real aliveness. And most of them are probably not going to be happening scrolling through the internet by yourself in front of a screen every day. So we need to take that quiet time, that time to hear ourselves. And then once we find, well, what else can we talk about? Because literally talking about anything else besides what the topic of the day is, or even like the tragedy of the day. And it's not to say that the tragedy of the day that the mainstream media or social media is feeding us is not relevant. Sometimes it is a very important tragedy. And if you allow your emotions and thoughts to be co-opted and controlled by whatever the tragedy of the day is supposed to be, then you're not a sovereign person. You're not able to access your own reality. And your own reality is where the power is. It's where your gift is. It's what you have to offer everyone else. And we all need it. We all need something different. Um, so literally talking or thinking about anything other than what the mainstream media is feeding us is going to help you to find that sovereignty and to connect with other people, because everyone wants to hear something a little bit different right now. So let me know in the comments, what are you thinking about? Is there anything you're thinking about that might be completely um, out of the box, totally different than what anyone else is talking about right now? That is something that would be interesting to me and to many people. Let me know.